Hi, I'm Michelle Vickers.
And I'm Christine Beverly.
Welcome to the Consciousness Insider.
This week our question is from Hilary, and she writes, "This is pretty raw and vulnerable, but I'm going to ask my questions. Why do I get continually wrapped up in old stories, patterns, and beliefs when I know they aren't rooted in truth? Why, after countless years of learning, do I feel like I can't grow beyond them, and what do I need to do in order to get past this? Why do I feel so separate from everyone else? Why do I feel like I am the thing that is wrong, the one who isn't allowed to find a partner, have children, or stop struggling financially? When you feel like you've done it all, and it works for others but not you, what do you do? How do you continue to have hope that change is possible? Clearly, you can't make change from the same mind that is creating the trouble. How do you access a greater truth and knowing to make more empowering and aligned questions? I am so sick of people in this industry with the just do this attitude. I see in myself and in my clients how hard we're all trying and feeling like we're getting nowhere, which adds to our sorrow, despair, and hopelessness. When you feel like you've done it all and you don't feel like people are really hearing, getting you, or understanding where you're coming from, what do you do? At the end of the day, I do believe that we create the world around us. So if we grow up with really strong and ingrained beliefs, and you've done a lot of belief work already, how do you get beyond what you're creating when you only know scarcity or not being chosen? I do believe that we create our experience and that we can change it, but when you're in the thick of the opposite of what you want to experience, how do you get out or shift this? I'm not talking beginner stuff. I'm talking after you've done the majority of what other people have already shared to do. How do you see what you can't yet understand? Okay, that's what I've got for now. I could keep going on, no doubt, for ages. Hope all is wonderful with you, Michelle. Take care. Hilary.
Hi, Hilary. Such deep and wonderful questions. And I applaud you for sharing and being so vulnerable, because those are, you're laying it all out there. And to be honest with you, that's actually a huge part of what you needed to do in order to get to the next level that you've been looking for. Okay. And what came through, and the more your question evolved, the more your energy was coming through. And it's not, okay. So you're trying to create a life that is all the things you want it to be. But the problem is you don't have an issue with creation. You have an issue with your back stuff. And that's what you haven't yet dealt with and you haven't worked on. And, when you have worked on it, you've only gone to the surface level and you haven't allowed yourself to go deeper. Your greatest challenge is fear. And I know that that's a huge topic, and I'm sure you've hit it a million times. Well, I'm here to tell you, fear doesn't go away. It has its own evolution, and it reflects who you are and who you're choosing to be in each moment, okay? So for you in particular, especially where it comes to allowing yourself to succeed, okay? So you have a great concept of all the things you want to achieve and all the things you want to accept and experience for yourself. But you haven't yet allowed yourself to go beyond the fear that's actually holding you back, okay? And I know that may sound simple. You're referring to simple and beginner stuff. There's no difference between simple and beginner and evolved. It's the same process. You just keep going deeper and you keep going deeper into the deeper stuff. But the processes, they don't change. I've been doing this consciously for 15 years, and it is the exact same process every single time. That's how you get to where you want to go. There isn't, this magical evolution of how you approach everything. That never changes. It's actually about how you approach your you're approaching the fears that are coming up. And really that's the part that's missing for you. You go into it, but you only go into the fears as deep as you're comfortable going in. And what I mean by that is the moment it gets uncomfortable enough, you stop. You don't want to go any deeper because your mind is set. I've gone all the way into that. I was so uncomfortable. I was angry. I was scared. I saw it and I went out. And this is really common. I can tell you that, when I first noticed that pattern in myself, it was tricky. It was hard to accept that, I remember I was yelling at the Creator, and I was so angry for, I was having a pity party, and I said to the Creator, I am doing everything that I can possibly do. There is nothing else I can do. Can't you just give me a break already? And I was in my bedroom. I was making my bed and I was screaming. I was so angry. And the reality is that's when I saw just how much I was only hitting the surface, even though I thought I was going so much deeper. Okay? So the process is the same, but you have to allow yourself to be all the way vulnerable. Okay? And what I mean by that is when you start to discover something you're uncomfortable with, just stay with it. Don't let your mind need to figure it out, because that's where you're gonna screw yourself, because you stop growing, you stop evolving, and you stop discovering the moment you give that job to your mind. Your mind doesn't have the capacity to discover the truth about you. It does not. It has no capacity. That's why it doesn't matter how many books you read. It doesn't matter how many opinions you get and you try to implement into your life. You cannot evolve and you cannot become more aware if you're using your mind. You have to allow yourself to be present to what's actually going on in your life. So what that means is you discover something that you're fearful of. The best way ever to discover fear is if there's anger, if you have frustration, resentment, anger, any of those feelings, there's something in there that you're scared of. Okay, that's number one. The moment that you discover that you have a fear, now what you want to do is you want to, how do I explain? It's not a passive approach, okay? So you're no longer in the driver's seat, okay? But you move over to the passenger seat. And it doesn't mean that you're in the back seat where you're just like, okay, we'll get there when we get there. You're still in the front. So you're still paying attention. You're the co-pilot that says, oh, look, that's the street that we have to turn on. Now we're going to turn. So, but you're not actually in the driver's seat where you're deciding this is where the car is going to go. It's more of a recognizing when things are coming up, okay? And this is the part that is tricky for you because you tend to overthink so many aspects of your life, okay? And you'll overthink it to the point where you're exhausted and you feel like you've exhausted that topic and that you've healed it and you're ready to move on. But really all you've done is you've just hit the surface of it. You haven't let yourself go any deeper. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah.
So what you really want to start doing is allowing yourself to become more vulnerable to yourself. And what that means is it's allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable even when no one else is looking, okay? And I know that sounds counterintuitive. They're saying that that's how you're feeling as you're listening to this. And then the reality is it's the only way to get to the heart of what's actually challenging you and what's actually holding you back. Okay? So if you want to create more abundance, you're going to have to discover what it is that is holding you back from abundance. So in your case, it's more of it's like a lack of willingness to succeed, which sounds ridiculous because your brain is, I want to do this and I want this goal and I want this much money and I want to be able to do this and I want to help my clients do this. But there's a lack of willingness to succeed in the sense that, it's your brain it shouldn't be a struggle. It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't take this much effort. But the reality is those three things are all decided by your mind. And it's tricky because when you decide it shouldn't be this much effort, whatever your brain labels effort as, you're not going to be willing to participate in it. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does.
So it takes a significant amount of effort to do anything, even just, me talking to you today. It takes a lot of effort for me to feel into your energy and your soul. And it also takes a lot of effort on my body just to show up. But my brain doesn't have a meter of what's too much and what's not enough. And for you, your brain has a lot of meters and a lot of rules that it sets, for what is too much and what's not enough and what should be happening and what shouldn't be happening. And, I've talked about this before, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. What you really need to do is you need to lose your rating scale, and as human beings, that's the hardest thing you can possibly do. And I come across it with really every single person that I've ever worked with, in the last 14 years, 15 years, and even before that in my corporate career. Letting go of our ideals is the most challenging thing in the world. And you're struggling at this moment because you haven't been able to let them go. And until you can, you're not going to be able to move forward. But the moment you do, you're going to be able to catapult forward and allow yourself to succeed. But really, for you right now, it's about allowing those blocks, that you put up. It's you in your mind saying, this is what this is, and this is what this is, and I can't do more than that, and I can't do less than this. All those can'ts and shoulds and don'ts and won'ts and can'ts, you're the rule setter. You have to break all of those rules. And to be honest with you, what your soul is saying, there are no rules, and you have to stop setting them. And when you stop setting all of those rules is when you're going to start to see success evolve. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it does make sense.
That's awesome. Thank you so, so much for sharing a little bit of your soul with us today, Hilary. It's such a gift, and it's so wonderful. Thank you. And I look forward to next week when someone else will be sharing a little bit of their soul with us.
Thank you so much to all of you that have watched this episode. And if you'd like to submit your question, we'd love for you to go to michellevickers.com, the Consciousness Insider page, and fill out the form to submit your question. And perhaps in one of the near episodes, we'll be asking your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.